Hey guys, I want to thank you for investing in the Shareholders podcast. It's Monty here. I have a great guest. I'm very excited to get into everything that she's about. We got a real mover and shaker here today on the Shareholders podcast. This is Michelle Seiler-Tucker with us. How are you doing today, Michelle?
I'm great, Monty. How are you?
I'm good. I really appreciate you coming on, and I'm really excited to get into a lot of things. And she has a great book, guys. We're gonna address that as well. But I wanted to ask you, how did you even get started in business, the business world, quote unquote, and where did you get your entrepreneurial spirit? Did you always have that, or is it something you developed?
I've always had that. Even as a little kid, I was always interested in business. I knew I didn't want to work for someone, or I knew I would not be an employee because my number one pet peeve is I don't like to be told what to do. It drives me crazy when people tell me what to do. So I've always been interested in entrepreneurship. I've owned many different businesses in many different verticals, even as a youngster. And I actually started a company in franchise sales, franchise development, and franchise consulting. And that's kind of what led me to mergers and acquisitions, because I had so many buyers that kept saying, we don't want to buy a franchise. We want an existing business. And I would always say, well, we only have franchises. So really, that's what kind of transitioned me into selling companies, is a request that I kept getting from prospective buyers. And that's when I started my M&A firm a little over 20 years ago.
Okay, so real quick, can you break that down for people? When you say franchise acquisitions, what does that exactly mean?
I did franchise sales, franchise consulting. So I had a franchise development business. So franchise development, franchise consulting, franchise sales. So, and I was equity partner with different franchisors. But really what that means is that I work with franchisors, help them develop their franchise plan, all of their, marry them with the right attorney to put together their franchise documents and all the paperwork that they need, make sure they have their training manuals, their policy and procedures, etc. And then I would sell franchises. I would help with the development of that. So I would actually help in, looking at the location, taking demographics, making sure it's a good location for that particular franchise, helping them find a location, helping them negotiate, helping them get the build out, helping them get their inventory assets, everything that's needed. I mean, pretty much everything from start to finish, even helping them hire employees and helping them train employees.
Wow. Okay, that is a full list. That's amazing.
It is a full list. Yep. It's a lot. And I mean, I got paid a lot, but it was a lot of work. And I had people that worked with me, in that company. I didn't do all that by myself. But then I transitioned into mergers and acquisitions, and then I stopped doing franchising shortly after that. And then I learned really quickly after I transitioned that what Steve Forbes says is true. 8 out of 10 businesses will never sell. And Steve Forbes endorsed my book, Exit Rich. So really 80% of businesses on the market, Monty, are never going to sell.
Yeah, that's a hard reality.
That's when I started saying, well, gosh, if I don't fix these businesses, I'm going to starve to death. So that's when I really started getting into fixing businesses, tweaking them, growing them, putting them on a build to sell plan, and really getting that business ready to be sold. Because like I said, 80% will never sell.
So all right, well, let's transition into that now. Can you break down the concept of exit rich and what that means for people?
So what that means is most business owners are not exiting, or if they are, they're exiting poor. They're exiting by selling for pennies on the dollar, closing their business and walking away, or even worse, filing for bankruptcy. So exit rich is not just about selling your business. It's about actually building an asset that someone wants to buy. Because the number one reason the businesses are not sellable is because the business owner hasn't built a business that's attractive to buyers. The buyers want to pay for. Or buyers might say, okay, well, I'll buy your business, but they're not going to buy it anywhere close to what the business owner thinks it's worth and what they think they need to enter the next phase of their life. So Exit Rich is all about planning. You know, it's kind of like Stephen Covey says, start with the end in mind. So Exit Rich is all about building your exit plan from day one of buying or starting a business. So we have what we call the GPS exit model in Exit Rich, and I can take y'all through that if you like. It also has a chapter that takes owners through different exercises, so they can really do some deep soul searching to figure out when do they want to sell. When they sell, what are they going to do next? You know, because if I don't help my clients figure out the beginning strategy, they're never going to finalize their exit strategy. And then that helps them determine what are their priorities. Is it the price? Is it their employees? Is it their clients? Is it their legacy? And then we have the 5 different types of buyers, what they look for, what their negotiables, non-negotiables are. And then we have half of the book, well, not half of the book, but 6 or 7 chapters is about building the proper infrastructure for your business. So you actually have a sellable business based upon the 6 P's, what I call the 6 P's. And then the second half of the book, so the first half of the book is psychology, your exit strategy, and your infrastructure on the 6 P's. The second half is all about valuations and your financials and normalizing and, creating, papering your business, packaging it for sale, getting the right buyers, negotiations, due diligence, closing, etc. So half of it's about selling, while the other half is about getting it ready for sale.
So with all your experience leading up to this, I love to know, like, when did you know you had a book and like you're like, wait a minute, I could write this down and make a book? Like, did you always have a plan to write a book, or did it just kind of like,
This is my third book. This is
oh,
actually my
okay.
third book. So,
Hey.
so I wrote my first book, Sell Your Business from More Than It's Worth, in 2013.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So Exit Rich was actually my third book. Um, yeah, so I did, and I also wrote a chapter in Think and Grow Rich with Napoleon Hill Foundation. And I wrote a book that's not out yet, that's not published, it'll be published after this one. That's how to grow your business through acquisitions. Instead of growing organically, grow it through acquisitions. And then Exit Rich is coming out June 22nd.
Now, I think one of the great examples of Exit Rich that I remember is the billionaire Mark Cuban, because I remember he got really big in the internet boom. And I remember he sold right before it kind of tanked a lot of that, that Silicon Valley stuff. And he made so much money off of that. And he just said I remember him saying he kind of knew when to get out, if you remember that.
Yeah.
And is that kind of the gold standard of exiting rich? Would you call it like that?
That's one of the gold standards. I mean, timing is everything.
Yeah.
And the problem with most business owners is they never plan their exit and they never time it correctly. They don't think about selling Monty until an internal or external catastrophic event has occurred. So internal could be health issues, partner disputes, divorce, death, this pandemic we're in. A lot of it, and business owners are trying to sell during this pandemic. The worst time to sell your business is during a catastrophe, because your business is going to be going down, trending downward. It's not doing well. The best time to sell your business is like when Mark Cuban sold it, when it's in its prime. Kind of like when you sell real estate. Real estate is in its prime right now, right? But what goes up must come down. There's a bubble. So real estate's in the bubble, and pretty soon real estate's going to crash, right? And that's not the time to sell it. The time to sell your real estate is now. Same thing with a business. You want to sell your business when it's in its prime, when the business is doing really well and thriving.
That's
before it's about to crash.
Yeah, definitely before that, right? So, Michelle, I want to ask you this. I've been able to, on this show, talk to some amazing women. And I like to ask them this, we're in 2021 and all the things that have happened. In your experience, do you feel like the business world is now fully accepting of women? I mean, it's not that long ago that people would look at women in business and give them a hard time, and it's, boys club, blah, 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 all that stuff. I'm not saying maybe things are perfect, but do you really feel there is now some great progress that's been made?
I think there's progress that's been made, of course. I'm in a complete male dominated industry. When I first got into mergers and acquisitions a little over 20 years ago, I walked into an M&A conference and there were about 3,000 people and they were all men.
Wow.
And I walked in, everybody turned around and looked at me. And then there was one other lady that came in right after I did. But, my industry now is maybe 97% men. So it's changed a little bit. And I belong to different masterminds. I speak at different groups. And I find there's still a lot of, what do I call it? Still kind of the good old boys club because these organizers are always promoting the men's speakers. They're always giving the stage to the men's speakers, or always highlighting them on social media much more than they do the women. Like I've even made comments about, look, guys, this is 2021. You
Yeah.
got to let the women speak too. You got to give women, stage time. You got to promote us as well. And so I think there's a little progress, but I think there's a lot yet to come.
Wow. That's really, man. I would hope things would be better at this point, but it's still a lot.
I think things are a little better, but they were so bad.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah. That's
any improvement is a little bit, but I always tell my women, my women clients and my women friends that look, if you're in a men's world, don't even really don't think about that. Don't think about, oh my God, I'm in a men's world. It's so male dominated. Because if you keep thinking about that and how bad it is, you're just gonna get more of the same.
yeah. Yeah.
So you really want to focus on, this is a great industry. Yes, it's changing. My clients love me. They love women in this industry because they think we have more attention to detail. They think that we're really good at negotiations. Think about the strengths
Yeah.
of what women bring to the table in that particular industry and focus on that versus focus on the negative. Does that make sense?
Oh, most definitely, most definitely. I'd like to know, what do you tell somebody? They might come to you, they've read your book, and they say, Michelle, I have struck out a couple times. I'm a little discouraged. I don't know if I can exit. I don't know if it's in me. I like business and all that, but I'm sure some people have come to you discouraged and kind of wanting to give up. What do you kind of say to that person to keep them back on track?
Is that Muhammad Ali behind you?
It is, yes, yes,
How
yeah.
many times was he discouraged?
Oh, there you go. That's true. Yeah,
How
yeah.
many times did he get beat down?
Right, yeah.
I remember there was a saying or something about Muhammad Ali that said, oh my gosh, you come out of the worst fight of your life and you're bloody and you're beaten and you're this and you're that. But then you look at the guy that lost.
I like that. Yeah, that's good.
So I think, look, discourage goes along with entrepreneurship. I think it's a mindset and it's an attitude. You can choose to look at the bright side or you can choose to look at the negative side. You can see the glass half full, you can see the glass half empty. It's all in perspective, it's all in attitude. And the people who've come to me and they are discouraged and I don't think they're going to get there, I work with them. I work with them and say, okay, this is how far you have gotten. This is what you've done so far. But guess what? We're never going to grow the business beyond what we grow the owner.
Mm,
Muhammad Ali had to grow mentally, right? You don't go into a battle like that and get your brains beat out and not have to grow. You have to grow and you have to grow mentally, you have to grow spiritually, you have to grow physically, and you'll never grow the business beyond what you grow the owner.
wow, I like that. That's a great saying. I like that. Guys, I hope you're enjoying this. I have Michelle Seiler-Tucker on. Just a couple more questions with her, but I hope. Listen, and we're gonna get all her plugs in a minute because she has been in the game a long, long time. So I want to ask you as well. Have you had any people in your experience that you can go to as a mentor? I'm sure you've mentored many people yourself, but are there people that you've leaned on in your career to kind of help you out?
Yes. And, not until probably 2012, 2013, I never even thought about mentorship.
Yeah.
I had a coach in the gym because my husband was a competitive bodybuilder, but I don't like working out with my husband because, again, I don't like being told what to do, especially by my husband. But I had a coach in the gym, and I'm like, one day I'm like, why don't I have a business coach? That's silly. I have a coach in the gym, but I don't have a business coach. Business is your most valuable asset. I mean, your body is too, don't get me wrong, but so is your business. So I didn't start really getting a mentor until around 2012, somewhere around there, 2013. And yes, I've had different mentors along the way. The thing that I could say is you got to be very particular. You got to be extremely specific. You got to do your due diligence because there are a lot of bad mentors out there. And, a lot of them are in it for the money. You don't want a mentor that's in it for the money. You want a mentor that's in it to help you, to guide you, to, help you down that path of success. So you got to be very careful when you pick a mentor.
Oh, that's good. That's good advice. That's very
And check them out. I mean, I always say when in doubt, check it out. But you know, get the references, call the references,
yeah.
really do Google them. You can find a lot on Google,
Yeah, that's definitely.
but really do your homework because there's a lot out there that are mentors, but they have never really done anything themselves.
Wow.
So a lot of times they say those who teach don't do. So you
Hmm.
want to make sure the mentor that you choose is a mentor of high caliber, is a mentor that's extremely successful. It maybe, somebody in your industry or similar to your industry. You want to make sure that that person's been down the path that you want to travel because they'll shorten your learning curve dramatically if you get the right one. If you don't get the right one, it can be a mess. And
Yeah.
and I've hired bad ones. That's why I'm talking about this.
Yeah. That's interesting. So, do you feel then in business and maybe in life, there's that saying that leaders are born and they're not made. But in your experience, do you feel that's true that leaders are born or are they made or is it both?
They say salespeople are born too, right?
Right.
So I don't think anybody comes out of the womb saying, "Woohoo! I'm gonna be a great salesperson. Woo! I'm gonna be a great leader." I think people come out with different talents. I mean, like look at Muhammad Ali behind you. You think he came out saying, "I'm gonna be a boxer"? you know, I think leaders. I think there's maybe some genetics, maybe some upbringing that helps with that. But I think leaders are not necessarily born that way. I think that maybe they have some innate ability that other people don't have. But I think it's also a learned skill, a practice skill, and something you're constantly learning and improving on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Does that
Okay.
make sense?
No, it does very much so. All right.
And you know
So,
what I want to say too, Monty?
yeah,
You can't be a good leader, a great leader, if you're not a great follower.
there. Hey, wow. I'm so glad you just said that. That guys, if you listen to a lot of shows, most people say something just like she said that you might see them at a high point, but they had to follow and learn and grow.
And
And
that's
that,
why I'm saying I don't think they're just born. I think that they get mentors, they follow, they learn from the best of the best, and then they become great leaders.
so then for Exit Rich, can you just, I know it's a lot to that book, but maybe just for a synopsis, you kind of gave the front end and the back end, but if there's one thing that you would want people to get out of Exit Rich when they read it, what would that be?
There's really two things I want them to get out of Exit Rich. Well, I want them to get a lot, but the biggest two things I want them to get, because I don't want them to become a statistic, I
Mhm.
want them to get planning your exit now. Let's walk them through that real quick. Do we have time?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so this is called the STGPS exit model. For any of you that own a business or thinking about starting a business or buying a business, you need to follow this model because the biggest mistake that business owners make is they don't plan their exit. They don't think about selling until they have to. So the GPS exit model is just that. It's a GPS. When you want to drive somewhere in Nevada, Monty, what do? You pull out your phone, you go to Google Maps, and what's the first thing you plug in?
What the destination is. Yeah.
Your destination. Boom, your destination. Do business owners have a destination?
Probably most don't. Yeah.
None don't. I've been in this 20 years, over 1,000 transactions. I've never met a business owner that has actually planned their exit. So business owners don't have a destination. They don't plan to fail. They fail to plan. So they're driving around in circles. They're driving up and down the financial hills to end up nowhere. You have to have a destination. So I always tell my clients, pick a number, and everybody gets hung up on the number, Monty, but It's just a number. You can adjust it, you can increase it. It doesn't matter. So let's pick a number. Let's say you want to sell for $5 million. Bam, there's a number. Now, what does a GPS exit model need to know? It needs to know where you're starting from. What is your current location? And in other words, what is your current evaluation? And most business owners have never had their business evaluated. Business owners don't get a business evaluation until they think about selling their business. And that could be 30, 40, 50 years later. So it's like, we go to the doctor once a year to get an annual physical to make sure our heart's still ticking and we're still kicking, right?
Yeah.
We take our car to the mechanic to get an annual tune up, but we don't take our most prized, valuable possession, which is our business, and get an annual valuation checkup to see what our business is worth. You need to know what your business is worth every year because there are events that increase valuation. There are events that decrease in valuation. This pandemic is a perfect example of that. It is financial suicide to not get an annual business evaluation checkup. And you
Wow.
don't get this from your CPA. Don't get this from your CPA. And I love CPAs, so don't get mad at me. But the reason I said don't get this from your CPA is because they that's not really what they do. I mean, we do thousands upon thousands of valuations. You need somebody who knows how to evaluate synergies because it's not always just about the numbers. It's about the contracts. It's about the databases. It's about how branded you are. It's about your proprietary assets, your synergies. So you need an expert to evaluate that business for you on an annual basis. So let's say you want to sell your business for 5 million. Let's say it's currently worth $1 million. The next thing you need to know is time frame.
Mhm.
Let's say you want to do it in 10 years. The next thing you need to know is buyers. Who are my buyers going to be? Notice I say buyers and not buyer.
Yeah.
It's funny because sellers will come to me and say, well, Michelle, I already had the buyer. Just represent me with this one buyer. And I go, no, not happening. They're like, why not? And I go, because I have to come in and evaluate your business. You're probably not operating in all 6 cylinders, all 6 Ps. I'm going to have to help fix and tweak those Ps and strengthen your business. Plus, we're going to have to look at your financials and get your financials in the proper order because they're probably a mess. And then we need to take all the due diligence items and stick it in a data room. And then I guarantee you the likelihood of that buyer buying your business is slim to none. So we've done all that work and we have no backup buyers. You always have to have backup buyers. Plus, how can we maximize value if we can't create competition because we have a party of one?
Hmm.
So the 5 types of buyers, most business owners don't even know there's 5 types of buyers. First and foremost, 90% of buyers are first-time buyers. They don't buy $5 million companies. They buy ice cream stores and pizzerias and, dry cleaners, things like that, under $1 million. Second type of buyer is your turnaround specialist. They buy distressed assets. They don't buy multi-million-dollar companies. The third type of buyer is private equity groups. They buy based 2 ways, platforms and add-ons. Let's say private equity group wants to get into technology, the SaaS, industry. They won't even consider a business unless it has at least $3 million in up in EBITDA. EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. And in other words, it's really the cash flow that the business generates before the tax returns come out.
Oh, okay.
And so then let's say they're already in a SaaS business and they'll buy add-ons, smaller technology companies, and they'll consider those businesses for under $1 million in EBITDA. Okay. So the fourth type of buyer is strategics and competitors. They typically will pay the highest multiple of EBITDA because they're paying for synergies. They're paying for synergies is going to catapult their current business to the next level. So maybe it's a contract, maybe it's getting into a certain business that they can't get into. Maybe it's a database, maybe it's talent, whatever it is, they're buying synergies to catapult their current, maybe it's patents to catapult their current business. Plus they look at economies of scale so that they can decrease overhead. The last type of buyer is a serial entrepreneur. And a serial entrepreneur is typically industry agnostic and they just chase EBITDA. So now that you know the plan, you need to reverse engineer it and say, okay, now that I know I want to sell for 5 million, I know that I'm worth $1 million. I know I want to do this in 10 years. I know my 3 types of buyers. Now you have to ask yourself, where's my numbers need to be? Where's my gross revenues need to be? Where's my COGS, my operating expense? Most importantly, where's my EBITDA need to be? Your EBITDA needs to be around $1 million, 1 million, 1.5 million depending upon your synergies, to sell it for 5 million. Who's going to know these numbers? Somebody like me knows these numbers. Okay. And then the last step, well, one of the last steps is, what are the synergies these buyers are looking for? What are they willing to pay top dollar for? And then the last step, and then you want to build your business to meet their specific criteria. It's kind of like, Monty, when somebody starts a business, or like, here's my widget.
Yeah.
Here's my target market for my widget. Everything is designed to attract this target market, right? Your business is your product. It's your widget. These are your buyers that you want to build to meet their specific criteria so you can maximize value and sell for your desired price tag. The last step in the model is my why. Why do I want to sell business for 5 million, 10 million, 50 million? If it was easy to sell a business for 5 million, everyone would be doing it, right? So the why has to be powerful enough. I mean, don't you think Muhammad Ali had a pretty powerful why to step into that ring every time?
Yeah.
He had a huge why. So you need a huge why. You need it needs to be strong enough, power enough to keep you in the game, keep you weathering the financial storms, and keep you strong enough against these pandemics that occur.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow.
that's a GPS exit model. Then what we do is we work with our clients to build their business on the 6 Ps. And that's where we built the synergies that these buyers are going to pay top dollar for.
Man. Okay. Well, guys, if you are interested in more of that, please, Michelle, can you let people know where they can find you, and of course, find your book when it comes out as well?
Sure, of course. So my main website is Seiler-Tucker.com, Seiler-Tucker.com. And just to tell you a little bit more about Exit Rich, it was endorsed by Steve Forbes.
Mhm.
And Steve Forbes says it's a gold mine for entrepreneurs, as entrepreneurs leave way too much money on the table when they sell their business. Sharon Lecht is my co-author, who wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad with Robert Kiyosaki.
Mhm.
She's a CPA, financial literacy expert, and advisor to many different presidents, even Obama, I believe. And she writes the Mentors Corner after each chapter of Exit Rich. And then Kevin Harrington is the original shark on Shark Tank.
Yeah.
He wrote the foreword. And then we have testimonials from Jack Canfield, Brian Tracy, Tom Hopkins, Les Brown gave me a glowing testimonial. Same thing with Mark Victor Hansen, Brad Sugars from Action Coach. So Exit Rich comes out June 22nd. You don't have to wait till June 22nd. You can go to exitrichbook.com, exitrichbook.com for $24.79, which is less than Amazon. We will send you the digital download immediately so you can start reading Exit Rich today. We'll ship the hardcover to your doorstep for no additional shipping costs to anyone that lives inside the United States. We'll give you free access to the Exit Rich Book Club. That's a free lifetime membership. So that includes video content and me doing different deep dives and strategies into these techniques I've been teaching over the last 20 years, plus documents to operate your business, documents to sell your business, sample employee handbooks, non-competes, policy and procedure manuals to sell your business, sample letter of intent, purchase agreements, due diligence checklist, and closing docs. All the documents you need to operate and sell your business are at Exit Rich Book Club for $24.79. It would cost you thousands upon thousands, over $50,000 if you went to your attorney to recreate all of these documents that I've created over the last 20 years and probably spent more than 54. And then we also gave you a 30-day lifetime membership into Club CEOs, which is an entrepreneurship mastermind where we help business owners build that sustainable, scalable, and when they're ready, sellable business. All at Exit Rich Book Club. All at exitrichbook.com for $24.79.
Guys, she's given you over 20 years of experience all into this for $24. That's not a bad deal at all. And the fact that we're talking Steve Forbes and people like that who have endorsed this lady is very well connected and she knows exactly what she's talking about. This is not, I was so impressed just looking at her on Instagram. I said, wow, this is really big. So please, this is going to come out. I'm actually going to maybe push this up for the date release so people have time and they can check it out and pre-order if they want to. Please, if you are about business at all, an entrepreneur, which is what this show is about, check her out, guys. Michelle, I want to thank you for the time. This was outstanding. I appreciate you so much for coming on, and have a great day. All right.
Thank you, Monty. Thank you for having me on. It was my pleasure.
All right. Have a good day.
It's out of our control. It's not like he wants to kill. He just doesn't want to die. You know what I'm saying? It's that situation when we are living in a war zone. I feel like I can represent my generation so much because I honestly did not care whether I lived or died. But now I cannot die. I can't leave until this straight. You know, I'm not suicidal.